Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. Today, it's going to be interesting for us to talk to Brian Ballenger, a local entrepreneur. And it's quite interesting for me because when you start talking to Brian, you start learning about his history as an entrepreneur. You would think I would have known him for years. And yet, I only met him just several months ago. And the way I met him was that he approached me and started talking to me about some of the local entrepreneurship that was going on with youth entrepreneurs. Through my BOSS program, I'm in the schools a lot, and I think I know a lot about what's happening with the youth and entrepreneurship. Brian is very involved as well. He's brought several things to me, and I can't thank him enough for doing that because it helps us discover new markets. So today, it's my honor to have him on the show. We're going to talk a lot about his entrepreneurship, but also talk about the communities, why it's important to him what the community is doing. He's introduced me to some great programs, and we're going to talk about those programs. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tim. It's good to be here. We've been looking forward to this, the opportunity together.
We have. A few months ago, we scheduled it, and then some things happened where it didn't work out at that time, but today we're together.
Right, finally.
And you know, in addition, today is even better because we have students with us in a live studio audience.
Right.
And that's kind of a rarity as well. But this was a way that the students get to share your story. They get to learn from you and see how you did it.
Right.
And how you're doing it, and maybe what your plans are.
Right.
So entrepreneurship, it's a fun thing. It's a thing I enjoy. I think you enjoy it. And I think we're going to find out a little bit more about why later in the show.
Actually, I'd say I love it. I don't just like it.
Oh, that's even better. And it's important because we live it.
Right.
Okay. And it's every hour. Sometimes we even wake up in the middle of the night, I'm sure, with ideas. So
right.
That's what entrepreneurs do. Okay. So before we do that, though, let's talk about you as a child. Did you grow up in the Richmond area, Wayne County?
I was born in Richmond. Early childhood, I lived near Economy, Indiana, and then when I was in second grade, my family had an opportunity to move to a very small farm in Randolph County. So from second grade to 11th grade, I went to Union School Corporation through the remainder of elementary school and high school. But my senior year, I returned back to Hagerstown, so I'm a graduate of Hagerstown High School.
Okay, so you got to explore our community quite often there.
Yes.
It was kind of reaching out, so that's good. And but as a child, let's go to second grade. Let's go to that era. What were you thinking? What did you want to do when you grow up? Everybody has a dream. What was yours?
Right, right. So when I say a small farm, I mean today, you know, we think of farming and it's hundreds, if not thousands of acres, you know, large operations. But when I was younger, you know, a farm was, you know, maybe 100 acres, 200 acres. We lived on about 20 acres. So the opportunities that I had as a child, having farm animals, it gave me opportunities to explore, to learn how to take care of the animals, a lot of responsibilities. But one of my earliest recollections, we had a pile of lumber in one of the barns and a can of rusty nails, and I think I was about 10 years old. I think I can build something with that. So that was really the first opportunity that I recall thinking, I think I can do something with this. Now, of course, when you're 10, you don't really understand, okay, well, that can lead to a career, but it was giving me the opportunity to explore. But I think to get more to your question, that experience with farm life and animals led me to a passion to, or at least I felt like I wanted to be a veterinarian. If you'll give me a moment, I want to expand on this because I feel like, you know, when we try over our lives, we're trying to figure out, okay, what's my passion? But before you get to that, you got to find out, well, what am I competent at? As I approached 9th and 10th grade, I began realizing that other classmates around me, when new subjects and ideas were presented, a lot of them were able to pick up on that very quickly, and I didn't. I don't know if I'm a slow learner or what, but book work really wasn't my strong suit. And I began realizing that, and it wasn't that I was defeated, but it was really more understanding what's the reality of my situation. I'm not going to be the one that's going to be accepted to vet school. I'm just not going to be intellectually capable of that. And what I really want to share about that is understanding we all have some limitations. Those are quite varying, but there are things in life that we can control. And my work ethic and my dedication to pursuing my passions and my dreams, nobody's limiting that. And I do have control of that. So I learned early on that if I'm going to be successful in whatever that looks like for anyone, you define that for yourself. But I'm not going to allow the limitations that I'm having to live with. I'll never allow that to affect my ability to outwork somebody else. And so that's kind of the, I guess, the direction that I've taken. You may be smarter, Tim, but you will not outwork me. I can control that.
Well, I won't measure the intelligence, okay? So I don't do that. But work ethic, I have a strong one, and I know you have a strong one, and that's what brings us together, okay? And I appreciate that. I'm also going to go back and say it sounds like you were a builder. Sounds like you were thinking as a builder at 10 years old,
so,
okay?
Right, so that's been my competency, I guess, but also became my passion. So that was, I guess, showing itself at a really young age.
So how was spelling? Did you enjoy spelling?
Actually, I'm very good at that, yes.
Oh, it's my worst subject.
Yeah. You know, science, that was not my strong suit. It was just very confusing. I guess maybe I needed more picture books.
Well, trust me, I get it. I fully understand it. So, so school may not have been your favorite thing, but it sounds like the barn was. Sounds like those, those rusty nails. I don't know what you did with them, but
yeah,
you didn't get hurt.
Well, so I don't want to divert too far off of this, but I'm not suggesting anyone should do this, but my father at the time was a truck driver, so he would be gone for days at a time, and he had a circular saw, and the rule was you don't use this, you don't touch it. Well, I guess I'm not a very good listener because Dad was gone at one point, and I think I was 10 or 11. And again, coming back to that pile of boards and the rusty nails, I thought, I'm going to build something. I don't know where Mom was at. She evidently didn't realize. So I got out the extension cord, and at age 10 or 11, I'm using a circular saw. And by the time Dad got home several days later, I'd actually built cages for our rabbits. Sounds kind of crazy now, but Dad never said a word. He knew exactly what I had done, but he never said a word. And you know, I think parenting probably today is obviously a lot different, but you know, I guess I was the type, I'm not gonna let things get in my way. And again, I'm not saying that we should break rules, but I share that only because I think it, for me, demonstrated at a very early age that there was a passion there that I didn't really quite understand what that was, but the competency was there.
Sure. Brian, we're going to transition. We're going to find out about what you're doing now, what's led you to this position. However, I do have to say I did not know this stuff about you. And yet a year ago, you may recall, I approached you about a project I was doing with the Boys and Girls Club. And we were making 80 centerpiece boxes, 5 different parts of this box. I have no clue how to even measure. I don't know how much wood I need. I don't know how I'm going to cut this stuff. Nothing. Colt and Kobe wound up being my partners. They helped assemble the stuff with the power gun, but you helped us measure, you helped us figure out how much wood we need, and you cut that wood for us. So we were able to make that project for the Boys and Girls Club.
Right.
I had no idea that this is how you got your training, was you were the same age of those children going to the Boys and Girls Club.
Right.
So thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's awesome. So you graduated high school, you transitioned. Did you go into the workforce, or what was your path?
No. So I was raised, our generation, we were told at a very young age, and most of your audience, they're going to resonate with this. We were told, if you don't go to college, you're not going to be successful and you will not be able to get ahead in life. That was just the message. But what was unique for my situation is I was told that not only from peers, educators, but also my parents. But my parents weren't in a position to be able to afford to send me to school. I was just simply told, you're going. How you get there, that's your problem. So I ended up joining the National Guard to help assist me in being able to afford to go. So I went to Ball State. So concurrently, I was in the National Guard, and after I'd completed my second year, that through the Indiana National Guard, that qualified me for Officer Candidate School. So I was recruited to go through that program. So my third year of college was a really formative period of my life, because I was at that time predominantly economics courses, third level, very challenging. I love economics, but I was also once a month driving to Camp Atterbury, southern part of the state, going through the Indiana Military Academy. Graduated, received my commission, and spent 7 years in the National Guard. Also, shortly after, married my wife. 2 years later, our first child comes, and at the same time, while doing all of this, I'm starting a business. Because again, that entrepreneurship, I think, though I didn't realize it, it was there at a very young age. Mm-hmm. And if that's in you, and if that's a desire burning in you, there's not much, you're not going to outrun that. And you're not really going to be satisfied in life if you don't pursue that. And I've been really blessed to, over my career, to be able to take challenges, take some calculated risk.
I know the question people are going to want to know, because I want to know. You said you started your first business. What was it? Okay,
so it, like most people, very humble beginnings. With military training, that of course continued. So I went through Officer Basic course in Fort Benning, Georgia. When I got back, I had an opportunity to work for a company. I say a company, I use that very loosely. It was a very dysfunctional remodeling company here in town, and realized quickly that this job's not going anywhere, but I saw some opportunity. And so I was, 22 years old, had no formal training or education in construction. That's not what I studied at Ball State. But I decided I will take projects, I'll do things that I know or feel that I can do competently as well as a professional, and I'll go at this gradually and slowly. So I started doing painting, handyman type things, and within 5 years I built my first house. But again, I feel like having that understanding of don't outpace your capability paid off those first few years. But again, I think, you know, you want to call it God-given talent, however you want to explain that. I was able to rather quickly learn the trades, understand the building process, and again, built my first home within the first 5 years. And then things really launched from there.
That's outstanding. That's great. And it's kind of interesting because what you're saying makes sense to me, because it's foundation, okay? It's learning. Every day I work with students, and can't get enough of it, because I too love entrepreneurship. And as they share ideas with me, I want to expand their ideas, okay? I try not to give my evaluation of it, but help them with the foundation of what it takes, okay? Mm-hmm. Then beyond that, it's what they want to do, okay, that makes them successful. And, you know, last month's episodes, we had 2 student entrepreneurs. We had Kobe and Colt. And they're, you know, getting into entrepreneurship, mm-hmm. just as you did at a young age.
Right.
And I don't know where they're going to be 10 years, 15 years,
right.
and 20 years later, just like I didn't know where you would have been if you'd have started with me.
Right.
But it happens. And we grasp, and we find out what we enjoy, right. and we go from there. So from that point, what happened?
Well, one point you just made, and I'd like to address, is these students start their careers, and if you're willing to pursue that entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial spirit that's burning within you, one thing you're going to have to get over and realize rather quickly is you can't be afraid to fail, because you're probably going to fail. I did. For many years, I struggled to even share this, but in 1998 and 1999, and I don't know if I've told you this, I can't hardly believe I'm sharing this on TV, but but I'm finally to a point I'm not ashamed of it, because it's a reality, and I think it's something that an entrepreneur needs to be willing to face, is the fact that we are taking calculated risk, and the potential for failure is there. So I was advised by an accountant and an attorney both that I needed to file bankruptcy, and I didn't accept that. I refused it. I told both of them, none of my creditors asked for this, and I don't know how I will pay this back. I will work back out of this. And I've been blessed over and over again for that decision. I wouldn't be sitting here today if I had made the decision. That was the easy thing. I could have just thrown in that towel. You know, the creditors would have been out, but I would not be in a position today to own the company that I have today had I taken another course. So I think you have to stay true to values and principles that are foundational, and then be bold in the decisions you make, be calculated in those decisions, and then put the effort in and go work that idea.
You're a worker. There's no question about your work ethic. I mean, you put the time in.
You may get knocked down, and trust me, I've been down to where I didn't know how I was going to get back up, but you have to have that fighting spirit within you that says, I will not be kept down. Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
So you put that turn, you didn't go the bankruptcy?
Absolutely not.
So that's outstanding, because you proved them wrong. You proved them that you just needed to work.
Had I done that, what bank would have said, okay, we're going to loan you the money to go after your next venture? They won't. They wouldn't have done that.
No.
So I know you and I, we might not have even met. I know I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be in the position I am with our company today had I, at an early age, taken an easy path.
Sure. So let's transition and talk about today's business, because how long has it been since you acquired today's business? 8
years.
So 8 years, you've been the president, owner, Whisenhunt? Whisenhunt. I always get it wrong.
Yes.
And I always get it wrong.
Right.
So
a lot of people do it. Yes. So our company was founded in 1976. The original founder was Keith Whisenhunt. Did a fantastic job. I purchased the company in 2016. I had met Keith for the first time in 1995. I went to work for him on a short-term basis, and then over the years, with my smaller company and scale, I subcontracted various projects with him over the years, developed a relationship with him, and quite surprisingly, I got a phone call from Keith, and it was about this time 8 years ago, and he said, I've been watching you over the years. I respect you. I respect what you do. And he said, I'd like you to consider buying my company. And I was really quite surprised by that, and quite honored that he would even consider me. And at that point in time, I knew that things needed to change. There were, you know, my daughters were all getting older. I felt like I needed new challenges. I think that's part of being an entrepreneur. We get bored easily. Mm-hmm. I was ready for the next step, and so timing was perfect for that. So believe it or not, within 2 months, we went through due diligence, built the business plan, secured financing, made the acquisition, and hit it running. That 8 weeks is, I look back on that and think, how in the world did we ever do that? But you know, we had accountants and attorneys working with us, negotiating with the former owners, and then surprisingly in 8 weeks, it was from the phone call to we are now the owners of that company. Yeah,
that's very quick, actually. And being a former banker myself, I can say
you
that,
know,
and
that's
I know
quick.
that, okay? I can tell you that I worked with Keith for many years. When I was at the bank, he would take on so many projects for us. And so I got to know him well, and I know he ran a first-class operation.
Absolutely.
And so to get that call from Keith and ask him to acquire the company is indeed an honor, okay?
Right.
But you wouldn't have received that call if he didn't believe in you.
Right.
And so entrepreneurs always have the opportunity to have their sustainability and to figure out what their succession plan is going to be. Obviously, that included you. Mm-hmm. So you acquired the business 8 years ago, signed the paperwork, you're now the president owner. Mm-hmm. How'd it feel?
I knew I had a lot to learn. You know, anytime you enter a new venture, most likely you're not going to know what you don't know. And if I had known everything that I was going to need to ramp up and learn quickly, I would have been overwhelmed. But, you know, we had a great team in place already. I brought my staff with me as well, and it was a good transition. We've been able to, I wouldn't say refocus, but we have placed a greater emphasis on positioning ourselves to be in the public works sector, and that's been a good move for us. So it's allowed us to increase sales and revenue over the past few years. That's not easy to do. We've worked really hard. We've been very focused on the steps and measures we've needed to take to position ourselves to be qualified for that work. But that's been probably one of the best strategic moves we've made over the past few years.
Okay. I would think it's very difficult to acquire a company like this, though, because, you know, Keith had built a reputation. And now not only are you acquiring the company, but you've got to uphold that reputation.
Sure, right. And I take that very seriously because, you know, Keith did do a fantastic job. He started the company from nothing, just like I started my company, and it wasn't even a company. It was just me.
Right,
you know,
right.
What was that, 1990? So we take the same sense of pride in building that reputation and maintaining it.
Okay. How many employees do you have today?
15.
So you have 15 employees. And are you busy?
Yes. We have, so since we've entered the public works sector, we do a lot of educational type projects. With the shortened summer schedule that most K-12 schools have now, we have less time to do the same types of projects. So this summer we'll all have our running shoes on, and it'll be a sprint to complete multiple projects. And I think I was counting this morning, we'll be in 4 different counties on public works projects this summer, all with completion dates within a day or two of each other.
And I think it's interesting because you talk about public works, okay, and those projects. Tell us what that means to the person who doesn't know that jargon.
Sure. So I guess the easiest way to understand that is any project that is funded by the government. So that would be IU East. If I work here, and we've done many projects here, you're state funded. Any governmental entity, K-12 projects, that's considered public works. So it's where the money comes from.
So everybody wants to take that blueprint and turn it into a finished job in 2 weeks. And I'm sure it's hard to manage because those are not 2-week projects. I know that, you know that. But trying to balance all that as an entrepreneur, because that's what you do. And so every day you have to update and know that things are going as projected, right?
Right. So we use technology. You know, we have sophisticated scheduling programs that we use. I have great people around me, from project managers, superintendents, fantastic estimator. So it's not just me, but you know, I think one thing an entrepreneur needs to remember is you can't know it all.
Right.
Surround yourself with people that do.
And those people are everything from your accountant to your attorney to your workers to your consumers, your customers, everybody.
Right. You know, something I learned, and I witnessed this firsthand many years ago. I saw a situation where a middle manager didn't hire a person because, and I found out later, he was intimidated. He knew that that person was more capable, more talented, and had a more proven track record, wouldn't hire that person. If you end up owning companies, if you start a project, whatever you do, don't ever be afraid to hire somebody that might be better than you. They will help lift you. Don't ever be intimidated by that, because that's how great leaders build great companies.
Well, I think that's great information, and I think you're absolutely right. And you learn from them.
Right.
And so you can build yourself.
And give them credit.
And
if they help lift you, give them credit.
I can tell you, you helped me with the wood project. I'm working with a student right now. We're doing awards for a ceremony that's coming up. And I taught him how to use the laser printer, and we did the etching and everything on acrylic to make the awards. He made the bases. He came in the wood shop and showed me the saw that he used, and we have one right there. They're beautiful. So this afternoon, he's actually going to teach me how to make those bases the way he did. And it's going to make me better.
You become the student.
Absolutely, and I do it every day, and I share that with the students. We're here to share information. I learn from them, they learn from me. Trust me, when it comes to social media, you better pay attention to the students, okay?
Right.
They know
Right.
what works.
Right.
So, Brian, I really appreciate it. How many hours do you suppose you're putting in?
That's a great question. So I wouldn't call myself a workaholic. I work probably about 50, 55 hours a week, and I guess I'm getting to the age, and I've been doing this long enough, that I've had to start becoming more aware of my own limitations and the need for my own space. I started unplugging on the weekends about 2 years ago. When I share this, a lot of people can't believe it. It's like, how do you set your phone down? How do you do that? Well, I set the phone down, okay, and I just leave my phone alone over the weekend. So, you know, if you're a hard charger, if I can use that expression, I think if you're a hard charger, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to have to be able to manage your time so that you can have some quality of life yourself. So I wouldn't say that I live, eat, and breathe what I do. I absolutely love my work. So from 7 a.m. to about 5:30, I'm in, I give it my all. But when I leave the office, I'm not taking a briefcase home. Mm-hmm. I might check emails once in an evening, mm-hmm, but again, that goes back to, I don't have to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, because I've been thankfully able to surround myself with a team that we all are able to manage our time effectively and run the business in a way that it doesn't require those kind of hours.
And I know you're telling the truth, because I'll text you at 7 in the evening and you'll say, can we talk tomorrow?
Yeah.
So I know it.
Yeah.
You don't ignore me,
right,
but you say, can we talk tomorrow? I appreciate it. Brian,
right,
thanks for coming on the show.
Sure. It's good to be here. Thank you.
This concludes another episode of In Your Business. Today was an exciting day for me just to get to know Brian. You know, we've been in the same community for all these years, and yet our paths crossed just several months ago now. But he's introduced me to these schools, he's introduced me to these youth, and it's just amazing how entrepreneurs can work together. Thank you again for watching In Your Business.